Hey Liquidators, welcome back to FX Liquidators Weekly Forex by Heat and Eski this week. Today we'll be going through EU and gold. We'll focus on those two. I'll start with a rundown on EU and then Eski will give his insights on gold. So starting with EU, let's zoom out on the daily for now. The last update, we were hoping the 4 demand zone would hold, but what we saw was the supply took over and just screamed past the protected low, and that was more or less it for you. It completely changed our bias, mainly because the weekly order flow turned bearish with that last push down. And EU, it actually hit one of the demand zones that we were looking at on the 4-hour time frame. But to be completely honest, I'd really like to see the price continue down further, see if it can hit some of those weekly demand zones. So now if we go to the lower time frames, what we can see here. So as I said, EU bottomed out at this 4-hour demand zone. The demand started to gain a little control and push the price up. Hasn't broken the protected high for now at least. And you can see that supply is starting to gain a little control again. So what we're likely to see now is some of these lower demand zones within this range to be hit. But like I said before, I would like to see those invalidated. So hit, invalidated, and then a push further down and start to push down to some of those lower weekly demand zones. Regarding this push down, some of our traders had actually already gotten into shorts. I myself was also in a short, but I actually closed it right before the market closed, mainly because I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen here. My bias is that it's going to push down, but for one, it could gap to the upside, and two, it may actually start pushing to the upside. So hopefully if it does push down, we get another chance to enter and take it down to some of those demand zones and see if it goes down further. So just to sum up, my bias is further pushes to the downside, but I will be closely watching this protected high that we have created here, because my thought is if it breaks that protected high, then it's very likely that we may come down, test some of the demand, and then after that push up and take back some of the liquidity that was created on this huge push down. So that's my summary for EU. I'll hand it over to Eski and let him do his gold analysis.
Hi Liquidators. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly run through gold, giving you my sort of macro bias and a weekly bias. So if we start on the weekly, if we see this push up here was the last push to break structure on our, quickly go to the monthly, this monthly high here. So ever since that is occurred, I've sort of been waiting for the right demand zone to be hit to then go long. So we quickly look at this zone. So obviously we can see what's already happened, but this was the last sort of push down before price expansion. Initially given that as confirmation as a valid demand zone, but as price came into it, when's that, back in March, it failed to take the top side liquidity and break any highs here. So that to me is an invalid demand zone. So realistically, on the sort of macro, I'm looking for this demand to be hit, taking out the sell side liquidity, then we can start going bullish again. We just have a recap on last week. So last week I was bullish on gold, and this story, what played out was actually quite interesting. So we opened here on the Sunday, moved to the top side, but then sort of dropped down, initially hitting, what did we hit? Yeah, so price came to touch this daily demand, the 50% level here, and yeah, was that the 50% level? Yeah, so price hit the 50% level of the daily demand I was looking at, and from there I was sort of had a bullish bias, but gold did what gold does best and encouraged a lot of buyers into the market at this point. And what did it do? It gave an indication that it wanted to break higher, taking some of this supply out, but then plummeted down, taking all that buy side liquidity. So from here, my bias was a bit skewed last week, I'll be completely honest. But then obviously the bias came into effect and we've started to expand to the top side. So I just dropped to the lower time frames. So if we go into this area, we can sort of see the exact moment where supply started to take control and started to move price to the top side, and that was here. So we see here we have a really key supply zone, and so what was this? This was on so this was on Friday. Oh, sorry, Thursday. So price finally, demand finally takes control here, and we break this, forming a lot of liquidity, and then we hold this strong demand zone here, and then we start moving up. So for me, this low is now protected, but I've sort of got a short-term bias of what I see as protected lows or highs and what I see as my targets. So because my macro bias, the long-term bias is we're going to come down into these demand areas here, because I still see supply in control on the weekly and the monthly, but we're starting to see a shift in structure on the daily. So what I can see happening this week is we're going for two liquidity targets, which is going to be either this point here or this point here, and then drop down maybe towards the end of the month. So at the moment I'm seeing this low as a protected low, but this low as a liquidity target. So that's a sort of short term, long term. So what I would like to see next week, if we go to the 4 hour, is either this point of liquidity taken and we come into this supply zone and we start to see a shift in structure and start coming to the downside, or we come into this supply area here but start to see the shift in structure to go to the downside. So I mean, for me, I really want to see this top supply zone hit, and I think there's more probability in us clearing all this liquidity here and coming to this supply area. Because if we go to the daily, we see this significant area of supply here. That's a big area of supply, and this last supply point here was the move, what was responsible for this expansion in price to the downside. Then obviously we've hit a point of retracement where we're going to get a temporary bullishness in place. So for me, in terms of my way I look at the market, what I look for entries, I very much like this because of what happened here, the expansion in price. We come back to test, we break down, but we're shifting structure. But in terms of how I also read price action, price can very much not come here and just come here, because yeah, we had the expansion, but of course this high here was the last real down move from this expansion. So yeah, what I sort of see, when we open up tomorrow is maybe a drop into this demand area. Maybe we see some sort of structure shift. Then very much expansion to the highs. Very much see demand in control until maybe midweek, towards the end of the week. Then I'm very much going to be looking for those shifts in structure to get shorts back down to the downside and eventually see if my bias starts to play out. But yeah, that's pretty much from me for gold. And I'll wrap things up there and hand it back to Heat.
All right, thanks a lot for that analysis, Iski. So that more or less wraps it up for this week's weekly forecast. I hope everyone enjoyed it. If there's any pairs in particular you would like us to focus on for next week's forecast, please post them in the comment section. And if you liked or enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as we'll be posting these on a weekly basis. And we have some new things lined up in the coming weeks that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Thanks a lot, everyone. Until next time.